The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a silver blade cutting through the darkness of space. Inside its command center, Captain Vox of the Galactic Council studied the blue planet below with his 4 eyes. His species, the Krell, had conquered 100 worlds. Earth would be number 101. Commander Rex, begin the harvest, Vox ordered through his translator device. The Krell had come for resources, but more importantly, for new subjects to study. Young specimens were always the most valuable for their research programs. The raid happened at dawn in a small town in Kansas. Silver pods descended from the sky, their gravity beams pulling up everything in their path. Houses, cars, and most importantly, people. The aliens were efficient, methodical. They had done this many times before. Inside the mothership's holding bay, dozens of human children stood behind energy barriers, separated from their parents. The adults were kept in different sections, deemed less valuable for study. Among the children was 10-year-old Tom, his younger sister Emma, and about 30 other kids from their school. They huddled together. Scared but strangely quiet. Captain Vox walked through the holding area with his science officer, Zara. The alien's scaled skin reflected the harsh white lights as he observed his new specimens. Excellent work. The young ones always adapt better to captivity. Less resistance, easier to control. Zara nodded, her tentacle-like appendages typing notes into her datapad. The adult humans show expected distress patterns, high emotional output, attempts at communication, standard for most species we encounter. And the younglings? Vox asked, stopping in front of Tom's cell. Unusually calm, Captain. Almost ... calculating. Zara's voice carried a hint of confusion. Their stress hormones are elevated, but their behavior doesn't match. They're watching us, learning our routines. Tom stood at the front of his group, his brown eyes locked on the aliens. He wasn't crying like some of the younger kids. Instead, he was counting the guards, counting the steps between cells, counting the seconds between patrol rounds. His dad was a Marine, and he taught Tom to always observe, always plan. Hey, Tom whispered to the older kids around him. They think we're weak because we're kids. Let them think that. Emma tugged at his shirt. Tom, I'm scared. I know, Em. But remember what Dad always says. Fear keeps you sharp. Use it. Tom's voice was steady, older than his years. The Krell had made their first mistake. They judged human children by the standards of other species young, helpless, dependent, easy to break. They didn't understand that human children grew up on a death world, where they played games that would terrify most alien younglings. They didn't know about dodgeball, about climbing trees that could break bones, about learning to swim in oceans. That could swallow them whole. Captain Vox received a communication from the bridge. Captain, the human military is responding, but their technology is primitive. No threat to our shields. Of course not, Vox replied confidently. Begin phase 2. Separate the youngest from the group. They'll be easiest to indoctrinate. As guards moved to take the children under 8, something unexpected happened. The older kids formed a wall, putting themselves between the guards and the younger ones. Not aggressively, but firmly. Tom stood at the center, his voice clear. You want them. You take all of us. The guard, a tall creature named Tor, laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Brave little prey, you have no power here. Tom smiled then, and something in that smile made Tor step back. It wasn't a child's smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something the others didn't. Mr. Alien, Tom said politely, his voice carrying across the silent bay. You put a bunch of human kids in a cage together. You know what we call that on Earth? The translator struggled with Tom's next words, but the meaning came through clear enough. A playground. Asterisk, the first sign of trouble came during feeding time. The Krell had provided standard nutrition blocks, the same gray, tasteless cubes they fed to all their captive species. The guards, Tor and his partner Grix, watched as the human children accepted the food without complaint. This itself was unusual. Most species young would refuse unfamiliar food, requiring force-feeding. Tom divided the rations carefully among the group, making sure the youngest ate first. But unknown to the guards, he also pocketed several cubes. For later, he whispered to Emma, who did the same. Captain Vox observed from his command center through surveillance feeds. Remarkable. They're exhibiting pack behavior unusual for such a young group. Zara studied her readings. Captain, I'm detecting something odd. Their stress levels are decreasing, not increasing. It's as if they single quotes adapting rapidly. Impossible. It takes most species weeks to adjust to captivity. But the children weren't just adapting, they were learning. Every time a guard passed, little Amy would count their steps out loud, pretending it was a game. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn. The guards ignored her, dismissing it as nervous behavior. Mike, a 12-year-old who loved puzzles, had noticed the pattern in the energy barriers. They flickered, just slightly, every 47 seconds. He timed it using Amy's counting. During rec time, when the children were allowed to move around their cell, he tested the barriers. Not obviously, just casual touches that looked accidental. It's electric, but not constant, he reported to Tom quietly. There's a gap in the pulse. Less than a second, but it's there. Emma, only 7 but smart as a whip, had made friends with some of the other young kids. They played a game where they would cry on command, not real distress, but performance. The guards stopped responding to crying after the third false alarm, exactly as Tom had planned. The Krell's second mistake was underestimating human creativity. They'd removed all potential weapons, but they didn't understand that human children could make toys and weapons out of anything. Paper cups became communication devices. Blankets became ropes. Even the nutrition cubes, when mixed with a little water, became a sticky substance perfect for jamming door mechanisms. On the second day, during what the Krell called education time, things escalated. The aliens tried to teach the children about the superiority of the Galactic Council, showing them holograms of conquered worlds. Your species is primitive, the education officer, Deck, explained through the translator. You still fight among yourselves. You haven't even left your solar system. Submit, and we will elevate you. A girl named Lisa raised her hand politely. Excuse me, Mr. Dick, but can I ask a question? Dick was pleased. Finally, curiosity instead of resistance. Yes, child. If you're so advanced, why do you need cages? Lisa's innocent tone didn't match the sharpness of her question. My baby brother's hamster has a cage. Are we your pets? The other children giggled. Not fearful giggling, but the kind that happens when someone says something the adults won't like. Dick's scales flushed purple, a sign of irritation. You are specimens for study, to understand your species' potential. Tom stood up slowly. We have a saying on Earth, sir. If you want to understand something, you don't put it in a cage. You let it show you what it can do. Sit down, human child, or what? Tom's voice was still polite, but there was steel in it. You'll put US in a cage? Oh, wait. The room erupted in laughter. Real, genuine, human laughter. The kind that comes from finding absurdity in terrible situations. It was unnerving to the Krell, who had never heard such a response from captive young. That night, after lights out, Tom gathered the oldest kids. They're not expecting resistance because we're children, but they don't understand human children. We grow up playing war games. We play hide and seek in the dark. We dare each other to do dangerous things for fun. What are you thinking? Mike asked. Tom smiled that unsettling smile again. I'm thinking it's time to teach them why human parents joke about their kids being little monsters. From the shadows, Emma added cheerfully, we're not locked in here with them. They're locked in here with us. The third day would prove her right. Asterisk. The rebellion started with a song. During morning feeding, Amy began singing The Ants Go Marching, and one by one, the other children joined in. Their voices echoed through the holding bay, cheerful and completely inappropriate for prisoners. The guards found it unsettling, but not threatening enough to stop. What they didn't notice was that the children were marching in rhythm, testing the floor. Mike had discovered that certain sections gave a slight vibration, maintenance tunnels, ran beneath. During the song's loud crescendo, Tom and 3 others jumped in unison. The floor panels shifted just slightly. Captain Vox watched the footage later, suspicious. They're too organized, too coordinated. Captain, Zara interjected, you're assigning adult intelligence to juveniles. They're simply playing. But Tom wasn't playing. That night, he put their plan into action. The nutrition cubes they'd been saving were mixed with water from the sanitation unit, creating a paste. Emma and the younger kids had spent the day crying and fussing, exhausting the guards' patience. Now, when Lisa started wailing about a nightmare, Tor didn't even look up from his station. Under the cover of her distraction, Mike worked on the floor panel with the paste, jamming it into the seams. The chemical reaction from the alien food created a mild acid, not enough to burn through metal, but enough to weaken the magnetic locks. By dawn, they had their exit. But Tom wasn't ready to use it yet. We need to know where we are in the ship first. Going blind is stupid. The next phase involved psychological warfare. The children had learned that the Krell had extremely sensitive hearing in certain frequencies. So they started whispering, constantly, just below the range of the translators, creating a persistent buzz that the aliens could hear but not understand. What are they saying? Tor demanded, his 4 eyes twitching with irritation. Grix adjusted the translator repeatedly. I can't tell. It's too quiet. The whispering continued for hours. Sometimes it would stop suddenly, all at once, leaving an eerie silence that was somehow worse. Then it would start again. The guards were on edge, jumping at shadows. During education time, the children became model students. Too model. They answered every question correctly, in perfect unison, like they'd rehearsed it. When Beck asked about Earth's history, 30 voices responded as one. Earth has survived 5 major extinction events. We're really good at not dying. The synchronization was creepy enough, but the content was worse. Every answer highlighted humanity's survival against impossible odds. Plagues that killed millions, but not all. Wars that should have ended them, but didn't. Natural disasters that they rebuilt from, stronger. Your species seems resilient. Dick admitted uncomfortably. Oh, we're more than that, Tom said cheerfully. We're vindictive. Do you know what that means? Before Dick could answer, all the children replied in their haunting chorus. It means we remember who hurts us. That night, the children struck. Using their secret exit, Tom, Mike, and 2 others crawled through the maintenance tunnels. The Krell never expected infiltration from within, especially not from children. Their security faced outward, not inward. The 4 kids emerged in a supply room. Mike immediately went to work on the computer terminal. Turned out all those video games had taught him about interfaces, even alien ones. It's not that different from a logic puzzle, he muttered, fingers flying across the holographic display. They found what they needed. Ship schematics, patrol schedules, and most importantly, the location of their parents. But Tom noticed something else. "Look at this," he whispered, pointing to a section marked in red. "Emergency protocols. If there's a contamination breach in holding, all cells open automatically for evacuation." "Contamination?" Mike grinned. "Like if someone put nutrition paste in the air vents?" They spent an hour preparing their surprise, then crawled back to their cell. No one had even noticed they were gone. The guards were too busy dealing with the younger kids, who had synchronized their bathroom needs to all demand attention at once. The next morning, Captain Vox arrived for a personal inspection. He wanted to understand these unusual specimens better. He stood before their cell, all four eyes examining them like they were fascinating insects. "You show remarkable unity for younglings," he said. "In time, you could make excellent servants for the council." Tom stepped forward, that unsettling smile back on his face. "Captain, I need to tell you something about human children." "Speak. We don't just play games, we play pranks. And you're about to learn the difference." The ventilation system suddenly groaned, then began spewing a thick gray smoke into the holding bay. The gray smoke wasn't toxic. It was just nutrition paste, mixed with condensation from the cooling systems. But the ship's sensors didn't know that. Alarms screamed through the holding bay as the contamination protocols activated. Every cell door in the section hissed open simultaneously. "Breach! Breach!" the automated system announced in multiple languages. "Evacuate holding bay 7 immediately." Captain Vox's eyes widened in shock as 30 human children poured out of their cell, not in panic, but in organized groups. Tom had drilled them for this. The youngest were carried by the older kids, everyone holding hands and chains to stay. "Together, stop them." Vox roared, but the smoke was thickening. The Krell's 4 eyes, evolved for the clear atmosphere of their homeworld, couldn't handle the obscured vision. They stumbled and crashed into each other. The children, however, had grown up playing in fog, in snow, in all kinds of limited visibility. Tom led them through the smoke like it was nothing, following the mental map he'd memorized from the stolen schematics. "Left here," he called out. "Duck under the rail. Amy, keep counting steps." Amy's voice rang out clear. 15, 16, 17 to the corner. They moved like a single organism, a human centipede of determination. Behind them, the Krell. Guards struggled with their own protocols. They couldn't use energy weapons in a potential contamination event. It might spread whatever toxin was in the air. Emma, riding piggyback on Tom, suddenly laughed. "They can't see in smoke. They can't see in smoke." The observation spread through the group. These advanced aliens, with all their technology, couldn't handle a bit of fog. They reached the detention block where the adults were held. Mike worked on the door panel while Lisa organized the younger kids into a defensive circle. The paste had dried in his pockets, but he'd saved some water. Mixing it quickly, he jammed it into the lock mechanism. "It's not working fast enough," Mike said, panic creeping into his voice. Tom looked around, then grabbed a fire suppression unit from the wall. "Everyone back." He didn't use it on the door. Instead, he sprayed it into the ventilation grate above. The foam backed up into the system, triggering another evacuation protocol. The adult cells opened, parents and children reunited in a chaos of tears and laughter. Tom's father, David, grabbed both his kids. "Tom, Emma, how did you—" "No time, Dad. We have maybe 3 minutes before they figure out it's fake." David, the Marine, immediately understood. He looked at his 10-year-old son with a mixture of pride and amazement. "You did this?" "We all did, but we need to move." Now, the adults, energized by their children's bravery, fell into line. The kids led the way, knowing the route better than their parents. They'd turned their captivity into reconnaissance. They reached the shuttle bay just as Captain Vox's voice boomed over the intercom. "Seal all exits. They're heading for the shuttles." But Lisa had thought of that. She'd convinced the younger kids to play one more game. As the adults hot-wired a shuttle, turned out Earth criminals had skills useful against alien tech. The children did what they did best. They caused chaos. Groups of kids ran in different directions, setting off sensors everywhere. The Krells. Tracking systems went haywire, showing human biosignatures all over the ship. The aliens didn't know which signals to follow. "They're everywhere," Tor reported, his voice cracking with stress. "That's impossible," Vox snarled. "There are only 60 humans total." But the children had learned something else during their captivity. The nutrition cubes, when rubbed on surfaces, left a residue that mimicked human heat signatures to the ship's sensors. They'd been marking false trails for days. As the shuttle powered up, Tom looked back at the chaos they'd created. The mighty Krell, conquerors of 100 worlds, were running in circles, chasing ghosts created by human children. "Tom!" David called from the shuttle. "Now!" Tom grabbed Emma's hand and ran for the shuttle. Behind them, Captain Vox emerged from the smoke, his 4 eyes blazing with rage. "You won't escape. We'll hunt you down." Tom paused at the shuttle door, turned back, and gave a little wave. "Thanks for the playground, Captain. We had fun." The shuttle door sealed, and they launched into space. The Krell weapons powered up. But it was too late. The human military had been waiting, alerted by a signal Mike had managed to send during their midnight infiltration. Earth's missiles might have been primitive, but there were a lot of them. Asterisk. The escape shuttle rocked as Earth's military engaged the Krell mothership. Captain Vox, watching his perfect invasion crumble, stood in stunned silence on his bridge. His tactical displays showed something impossible. The primitive humans had launched everything they had. Outdated missiles, ancient satellites retrofitted as kinetic weapons, even what appeared to be a decommissioned space station on a collision course. "Captain," Zara's voice was shrill with panic. "They're not trying to win. They're trying to make us hurt." "Shields at 40%, another officer reported. "These weapons are primitive, but there are thousands of them." Below, on the shuttle, Tom's father was piloting with remarkable skill for someone who'd never flown alien technology. "It's not that different from a helicopter," David muttered, "just with more dimensions." Mike was at a console, his game-trained fingers dancing across. "Alien controls. I'm broadcasting everything. The whole galaxy needs to see this." He'd hacked into the Krell's own communication array during their escape, sending out a universal transmission. 30 human children leading 60 adults to freedom from the mighty Galactic Council's flagship. Back on the mothership, Captain Vox received an incoming transmission from the Council. The holographic figure of the Supreme Counselor materialized, its 6 arms crossed in displeasure. "Captain Vox, explain why we're receiving reports of human juveniles compromising your vessel." "Supreme Counselor, Vox began, but the transmission was suddenly hijacked." Tom's face appeared on every screen in the ship and across the Council's network. The 10-year-old boy, covered in nutrition paste and smoke residue, grinned at the camera. "Hi, everyone. My name's Tom. I'm 10 years old, and I'm from Earth. You tried to kidnap us, and we escaped. Want to know how?" His expression became serious. "We played. That's what human children do. We turn everything into a game, even surviving." The transmission switched to footage Mike had recorded, the children organizing, planning, executing their escape with a precision that would make military tacticians jealous. Tom's voice continued over the images. "You think because we're young, we're weak. But human children climb trees that can kill us, swim in oceans with predators, play sports where breaking bones is normal. We skin our knees and get back up. We lose teeth and grow new ones. We heal from things that would kill adult aliens. The footage showed Emma, 7 years old, crawling through maintenance shafts that would terrify most adults. Amy, counting steps with perfect precision under pressure. Mike, cracking alien code like it was just another video game level. Here's what you don't understand about humans, Tom continued. Our children don't just grow up on a death world. We grow up loving it. We make friends with dangerous animals. We play with fire. We dare each other to do scarier things. And our parents? They let us because they know we need to learn. The Supreme Counselor watched in horrified fascination as the presentation continued. You want to know the difference between human children and your children? Tom asked. Your children are protected from everything dangerous. Ours are taught to face it, fight it, and win. You caged a bunch of kids who grew up playing the floor as lava and expected us to sit quietly? The transmission ended with all 30 children appearing on screen together, dirty, triumphant, and grinning. They spoke in unison one last time. Never cage human children, we bite. The shuttle had reached Earth's defensive perimeter. The Krell mothership, now taking real damage from the surprisingly effective barrage, began to retreat. Captain Vox made one last attempt. Humans, this is not over. The Galactic Council will. David took the communication controls. Captain, this is Sergeant David Miller, United States Marines. You kidnapped our kids. In our culture, that's the one thing you never do. The one thing that makes even enemies work together. You've united Earth like nothing else could have. He paused, then added, and you taught our children that they can beat aliens at their own game. Think about what they'll teach their children. Think about what kind of species you just created an enemy of. The Krell ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth's orbit. In the following days, the story spread across the galaxy. The mighty Galactic Council, defeated not by weapons or technology, but by human children who refused to act like prey. Years later, when other species would ask about humans, the story would be told. They're the ones whose younglings escaped. A Krell mothership using food paste and counting games. The ones whose children turned captivity into a playground. And everyone in the galaxy learned a simple truth. Never, ever cage human children. They don't just escape. They make you regret. Trine ***.